It seems cliche, but it's true. Perhaps several months, or perhaps several decades ago, a cloud formed above the 4th Connecticut Lake on the Canadian border, and a drop of water fell. Its journey is so varied, sometimes slow and lazy, sometimes through waterfalls, under dams, through cities and along pastures, until it ends up here at the very mouth of the Connecticut River. I sometimes wish I could swap places with that drop of water, to see the things that it's seen, to go the places it's gone, to travel a route which I seem to know on a map, but I can't comprehend in reality. We call the end of a river its mouth, and its beginning its source, but who's to say that both can't be interchangeable? Is not truly the mouth of a river where it gulps in its first molecules of water, where it assumes its character and picks its destiny? Rivers, like us as humans, like to think that we steer our own destiny, but in reality we are shaped by the geography around us, and by the occasional literal dams that stop us in our flow. However ethereal, I wanted to understand the reality that a drop of water, along with its cohort, has managed to form a 400-mile waterway, the tail end of which I find myself now ready to explore. Hey everyone, it's Jonathan. I'm so excited for you to come along today because we've launched at the Salmon River Boat Ramp, which is on the Connecticut River. This is the lower 17 miles of the Connecticut River, and it's full of history. It starts with the early explorers to America, it continues through the Revolutionary War. Then there was a bunch of commerce with steamships up and down the river. There's log runs that started in Vermont, and even a nuclear power plant up until recently. Today, most of the river is leaned over to recreational traffic. We'll see a lot of recreational boats, but there still is a fair amount of commercial traffic that runs up and down this all the way to Hartford. So I'm so excited for you to come along. Let's go see what the Lower Connecticut River has for us today. The evolution of the Connecticut River began with its emergence over 10,000 years ago at the end of the last ice age. The first inhabitants of the Connecticut River Valley not only used the river for navigation and extension of trading routes, but also for the fertile hunting and farming lands it provided. These forebears of contemporary tribes left behind artifacts researchers are still finding today, some of which are over 5,000 years old. Industrialization in the 1800s introduced an entirely new array of influences that reshaped how people utilized the river. While farming and logging had caused tremendous upheaval to the Connecticut River Valley in centuries prior, industrialization accelerated these processes on a massive scale. Industries diverted the natural flow of the river in order to generate power, while dumping industrial waste that threatened to destroy fragile ecological environments downstream. The abuse heaped upon the river continued into the 20th century. Agricultural runoff from commercial farming, and in particular the valley's thriving tobacco industry, further polluted the river. The end of the Second World War brought with it the introduction of new chemical dyes and pesticides, which the river proved incapable of assimilating. The once pristine waterway was now a river of flowing toxins. In 1965, actress and Connecticut resident Katharine Hepburn narrated the documentary The Long Tidal River, in which she called the Connecticut River the world's most beautifully landscaped cesspool. This film helped spark the burgeoning environmental movement in New England that called for the creation of more sewage treatment plants and tighter restrictions on industries polluting the environment. In 1973, public pressure helped bring about the creation of the Connecticut River Gateway Commission, which monitors standards for the development of riverfront land. Additional legislation targeting the cleanup of the Connecticut River helped increase the quality of the surrounding environment, slowly bringing back schools of shad and herring to the river, and in 1989, the nesting of bald eagles for the first time in over a century. Thanks to new legislation in 1995, the entire Connecticut River watershed became the Silvio Conte National Fish and Wildlife Refuge. 3 years later, the Connecticut River received a designation as an American Heritage River, and it remains protected as just one of 14 rivers in the country to be recognized as such. Today, with a watershed that includes more than 2.4 million residents spread across some 400 communities, the Connecticut means much to so many. Outstanding boating opportunities range from kayaking and quiet water boating on its more placid reaches, to whitewater paddling on tributaries like the Deerfield, Farmington, and West Rivers, extending downriver to heavy motor traffic between the town of Essex and the river mouth here. Due to the heavy silt loads carried by the river that obstruct navigation, the Connecticut is one of the few major rivers in the United States without a major city at its mouth. Its largest cities, Hartford and Springfield, lie 45 and 69 miles upriver respectively. Abundant cold water habitat throughout the watershed provides great opportunities for fishing, and several species of fish, both resident and migratory, can be found, including brook trout, winter flounder, blueback herring, alewife, rainbow trout, and large brown trout. American shad, smallmouth bass, and sturgeon have been seen. After an absence of more than 200 years, Atlantic salmon have been reintroduced into the Connecticut by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Meanwhile, lake trout and landlocked salmon reside in the upper river surrounding the Connecticut lakes. Not all the river's history is ancient. When the atom was seen as the future solution, the Connecticut Yankee nuclear power plant was built right here in Haddam Neck. The power plant was situated on the Connecticut River near the Swing Bridge. The plant was commissioned in 1968, ceased electricity production in 1996, and was decommissioned by 2004. The reason for the closure was because operation of the nuclear power station was no longer cost-effective. Demolition of the containment dome was done in 2006. What those back then thought as was the solution to our future energy issues now lies as an empty field. The deer and eagles that wander there are reminded that what we often think of forever isn't. Well, it's 8 o'clock at night and it's still light out, which is the best part of New England summers here. We had a great visit today on the Lower Connecticut River. Got to see some stuff, and I'm so glad that you got to come along and see with it. Stay tuned for more adventures on littleredtug.com. We'll see you on the next trip. So long. Bye. At the end of the day, my travels bring me back to this. We are all rivers ourselves. We have a mouth and we have an outlet. We have an upstream and we have a downstream. We have a current, a direction that we generally head, although we often meander off that path. 50 years ago upstream, it seemed like a good idea to put a nuclear power plant on the Connecticut River. Now, 50 years on, that upstream memory is gone, as are so many memories of our own, victims of our own faults, poor thinking, or simple erosion. We all have upstream memories. For some, the path and memory is straight and narrow, while for others it meanders, but the destination and source remain true. A river is just time, but a fluid version of it. We travel different portions, and along the way, the current guides us. I am fortunate to travel these Connecticut River waters with the rich history that flows below, on my own, which I create.